On the island of Sodor, all the engines love working on the Fat Controller's railway. They are very friendly when greeting one another. And there's one engine who is the friendliest of all, and that is Edward. Edward is one of the oldest engines on Sodor. He is kind, brave, and never has made a mistake. Not once. One morning, Edward steamed into the docks. The Fat Controller was waiting for him.
Good morning, sir. You wanted to see me?
Indeed I do, Edward. I'd like you to take some visitors up to the mountains.
Edward was excited. Going up to the mountains was the most peaceful place to visit.
The visitors are waiting for you at Maythwaite. Collect your courses now, Edward, and please be back before dark.
Don't worry, sir. I'll get 'em back in time, with no delay.
Edward chuffed happily away to Maythwaite. Lots of people were waiting for Edward to arrive. They couldn't wait for their trip.
All aboard!
Soon everyone was on board Edward's coaches, and he chuffed away to the mountains as quickly as he could. It wasn't long till he reached the platform of the mountain site.
We're here!
Soon everyone had departed from the coaches and went looking around. Later that afternoon it was time to go home. Edward was pleased with himself. He was right on time and was sure the Fat Controller was going to be happy with him.
Off we go!
Edward was enjoying himself enormously. Until he came towards an old mountain bridge. He started to cross the bridge, then he stopped.
Come on, Edward, jump forward.
But Edward didn't move. He was very silent and very still.
Edward, are you feeling all right?
But Edward still didn't say anything. He was far too busy looking from the bridge. He was very high up.
Oh my goodness.
The passengers were very puzzled why the train had stopped. Suddenly, a big rock fell from the cliff and into the ravine below. Edward was scared.
Oh! Ah! Help!
The driver whispered to the fireman.
I think Edward is scared of heights.
Edward's fireman made a telephone call. Soon, Emily came to take the visitors back home. Then he spoke to Edward.
Edward, we're going to get you off this bridge, but we need you to shut your eyes so you won't look down.
Okay.
Edward shut his eyes tightly and slowly, Edward's wheels were soon off the bridge. The fireman decided to take on more water before heading home. Edward steamed weakly.
I don't believe it. I'm scared of heights. I'm supposed to be a brave engine, but I'm not. Oh, what will the Fat Controller say?
Edward sighed as the cold wind started to blow on the top of the mountain. It was dark when Edward arrived back at Maythwaite. The Fat Controller was there. He was very worried.
I trusted you, Edward. You promised me that you would get the visitors home on time, but you didn't. I thought you were really useful, Edward.
But sir,
I'm not interested in your story, Edward. You will stay in your shed tomorrow and think of being really useful.
Edward was most upset. He chuffed sadly back to his shed. Rosie was there when she saw how sad her brother looked.
Edward? You okay?
I'm a scaredy engine, Rosie.
What are you afraid of?
I'm scared of heights.
Edward, you're not a scaredy engine. You're the bravest engine on the whole railway and everyone knows it. Even me. I don't think you're a scaredy engine. You're the bravest engine I ever know and love.
Edward smiled to his little sister.
I always love when you try to cheer me up, Rosie. But today, it didn't work, I'm sorry.
Soon the two engines went to sleep, but late that night Edward had a terrible dream. He dreamt he was back on the old mountain bridge.
Oh no! Oh no! Not this again! Help! Help! It's getting awfully windy up here.
Edward, are you alright? What happened?
I just had an awful dream. I was on the mountain bridge. I couldn't move. The wind was picking up hard. And then it broke the bridge. And I went down with it.
Oh, Edward, you really are scared of heights, aren't you?
The next morning Rosie had to take a tanker of milk up to the mountains. It had been raining during the night and it had made the tracks quite slippery. Rosie arrived at the station, but she was still worried about Edward. James was there doing his last job for the day.
Hello, Rosie. You look unhappy.
I'm worried about Edward, James. He's scared of heights and I'm very worried about him. I wish he can conquer his fears, but...
Then Percy came whooshing by.
Hello, James. Hello, Rosie. Hi, Percy.
Then Rosie and James could see the old mountain bridge. It started to wobble.
Percy,
Stop!
I can't.
Percy tried to stop, but he couldn't. The wet rails made it harder to brake. He went onto the bridge and with a bump he bounced off the rails and was dangling dangerously over the bridge.
Help! Help!
Oh me! Oh my! I'll have to go and get help!
Rosie, don't leave me, please.
Oh... James, what are we gonna do?
I'll go and get help. I'll fetch Edward.
But Edward's scared of heights.
But he's the only one who knows about these sort of rescues. I'm going back to get him.
James raced away as fast as he could and Rosie stayed behind to keep Percy company.
Hold on. Percy? Why did you want me to stay with you instead of James?
Percy blushed bright pink. He wanted to tell Rosie something, but he couldn't. He was too shy. Edward was all alone in his shed. He felt awful.
If I'll be a really useful engine again. I feel so useless!
All of a sudden, James came rushing in.
Edward!
What's the matter, James?
Percy's in trouble. He fell off the track on Mountain Bridge. We need your help to pull him up.
But
Then Edward went silent. Deep down in his boiler, he knew he had to be a useful engine, and a brave one too.
Lead the way, James.
Edward raced like the wind to the rescue, and James puffed close behind. Percy was very scared. The wind was blowing fiercely, and at any moment Percy would soon fall.
I don't think I can be on this much longer.
Don't worry, Percy. Help is on its way. I hope. Hang on, Percy. Edward's here now.
Is Percy okay?
I think so. But please hurry, Edward. He's very frightened.
Very slowly, Edward shoved onto the bridge. Edward gently bumped Percy and was coupled up. And slowly, Edward started to pull Percy off the bridge when suddenly... At long last, Edward finally pulled Percy to safety, and just in time.
That was a close one. Are you alright, Percy?
I'm fine now, Edward. It's all thanks to you.
Oh, Edward, I knew you could do it.
Thanks, Rosie.
And the best thing, Edward, you're not scared of that bridge anymore. You've conquered your fears.
The next day, the Fat Controller spoke to Edward at Wellsworth. The engines were there too.
I heard what happened to Percy yesterday. The accident wasn't your fault, so don't worry. And Edward, you were very brave to help Percy out like that. I'm very proud of you. Very.
Thank you, sir. Just glad to be helpful.
Hooray for Edward!
All of the engines whistled, and Edward the Brave just smiled brightly.